Hello there, Pursuing Freedom friends, and thanks for tuning in today. I'm super excited today to introduce you to Jack Bosch out of Phoenix, Arizona. Jack owns Orbit Investments LLC, and he is a unique guest for us today because he's not currently selling real estate. He is actually a very successful real estate investor who's been flipping land, buying apartment buildings, coaching, and the whole nine yards for I think 17 or 18 years now. And his story is really fascinating. And I thought it would bring a lot of great opportunity for those of us who are either thinking of building out our real estate portfolio or helping our clients to do that. And so we're going to dig in today on the strategies that Jack has implemented along with many others that he's coached, and we'll go from there. So Jack, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me, Aaron. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
It's going to be fun. So tell us a little bit about your backstory. How, when, why did you get into flipping land and buying real estate, and what has your journey looked like since then?
All right. Yeah, I'll be happy to. So first of all, I'm an immigrant from Germany, and my wife is also an immigrant from Honduras, Central America. So we came here literally with basically what we say with about a couple of suitcases and a bunch of student loans, right? And we came here really for that American dream. We met each other here in college, and both were only here for college kind of time. And I already had my job lined up in Germany and everything, and she had a job lined up in Honduras. And then, well, where love falls, right? We're now married 18 years, and we have a beautiful 11-year-old and super smart 11-year-old daughter, and super kind little girl too. So she's like as close as it gets to a perfect girl, perfect daughter, and a perfect child. And so we came here and we did what we were told to do, which is we got a decent education, good education, we got a job, and shortly into that job, I realized that if I have to do this for the next 40 years, this is not going to end well. This is not going to be anything I want to do. So I worked at a company that required me to travel 100%. I worked 5 days a week, sometimes, well, everyone does, right? But from 8 o'clock to sometimes 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight. I sometimes had to work to the weekends. I had 2 weeks of vacation. That's all they gave me. And I made just enough to basically, after a little bit, we bought our first house. We had a couple of cars, like simple cars, like a Geo Prism and a bare bones Honda Civic, Honda Accord, I think, very bare bones, like even with the windows that you roll down with your hand, and so nothing fancy, and yet the income was just enough to pay that and pay some of the insurances and bills and have just that much left over, like literally $200-300 or $300 for the month, and I was like, can't be it. That can't be that American dream, and so I hated what I was doing. I hated being away from my wife, and we started looking around. So it was really I'm not the born entrepreneur or anything like that. I'm not the born real estate. I didn't grow up with real estate family or nobody in my family does real estate. So it's like, well, we just started looking around, and we came across real estate as an option, and we liked it. And so we dabbled with it, because the other thing is, I needed to do something that I could do part-time. Like I realized, because I'm coming here from another country, you have a work visa, and that work visa, it's called the H-1B visa, which has recently been in the media quite a bit. That one is attached to an employer. So if you lose that employment, you lose your work permit, and you have 60 days to find another employer to reactivate that, or you have to leave the country. So basically, I couldn't just say, hey, I want to become a realtor. I want to become a real estate investor. I want to become, I don't know, whatever it is, because I would have lost my right to be in the country. And since Michelle is an immigrant too, she was in the same boat, right? So it's not like we couldn't help each other there. So we were both in the same boat. So we figured out, we tried to find a way to do real estate part-time. And being a realtor wasn't an option because I was traveling 100%. I was constantly in other states and in other places. So I just wasn't an option. So a real estate investor was the option that for us. And even there with houses, we couldn't make it work, because for rehab, you gotta kind of be there, right? Otherwise, your contracts, they're gonna rip you off and eat you alive. They're gonna steal from you and stuff like that. And of course, there's honest contractors out there, but still, you got to be there to oversee the process. And the other thing is we had zero real estate experience. I mean, we did not even know the real estate language. Like, what is a 2x4? What is drywall? No idea, right? So like we had to learn those things. I just recently found, we just moved to a new house, and I found in the process the very first real estate books that I ever bought that where I had stuff underlined, like what is a quitclaim deed? Right? I didn't know, right? What is a deed in the first place, right? It's not something you do is a deed. No, it's a piece of paper, right? That transfers ownership, as you of course know, but being in the mortgage industry, but so that's where we started, and by not being able to get into the house business really because of all these reasons, we stumbled upon people that didn't pay their property taxes, like tax liens and tax deeds, and we figured let's send them a letter and let's see if they're interested to sell the property to us. And everyone that contacted us back, called us back, were landowners. So we ended up saying like, well, let's figure that one out. And the first property we came across was using this technique was for a piece of land in a rural community, but in a little town with a house next door, a house across the street. And that property was worth about $8,000. And we just made a $400 offer on it. It's like, screw it, this guy doesn't want it. He told us he doesn't want it. He's moving away to Colorado, actually, to Colorado of all places, right, where you are.
Yeah.
And he just wanted, he told us these words were very clear. If you guys give me just something for it, you can have it. We're like, okay, well, how about $400? And he's like, I'll take it. So he accepted it. And we literally, the day we closed on it, we sold it to the neighbor across the street for $4,000. We're like, okay, well, that's a good deal. I mean, that's 10 times our money. I mean, did it make us wealthy? No, but it certainly changed our mindset, right? It changed our mindset from, is this something we can do? Is this something that is worth pursuing? Are we just fooling ourselves? Is this just, it doesn't even work? Do we even have what it takes? To like, no, this works. We just made 10 times our money. Let's do this again. And we started doing it again and again and again. And I mean, we bought properties. Sometimes we bought properties for $100 and sold them for $2,000. Sometimes we buy them for $10,000 and sell them for $40,000. Just recently, we bought the property for $5,000 and sold it for $64,000, and so on. And then we started doing that from there. And since then, we have done over 4,000 land deals. And for the last 10 years, we have been teaching it to others too.
Wow. Okay. So that's so much information. I have so many questions. First of all, I want to back up a little bit because you mentioned the American dream and being an immigrant from Germany. And ironically, our very first podcast interview was with a good friend of mine who's in Denver, Colorado, Ewan Graham, and he's from Scotland. And he feels really passionate about this idea of the American dream and the fact that so much opportunity exists. And yet folks that have been born and raised here can't see it with their own eyes the way that those who have immigrated can. And I'd love for you to speak to that a little bit, because you mentioned that, you know, I wasn't a natural born entrepreneur necessarily. I didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial or real estate family. But I see this a lot with immigrants, that they come to the States and they see endless opportunity, and then they go and they create their opportunity. So what was your experience with that in terms of your own experience of having a dream and going after it and creating your own opportunity, and then what you see observing others who have the same access that you did and don't find a way to do it?
Yeah. So first of all, I 100% agree with that sentiment that immigrants see this, and I have my theory about why that is. And first of all, I have there's something to be coming from another. You come with a different frame of reference to this country. So you're used to the way things are being done over there where you came from, and things are being done differently here. And you see certain gaps over here that you could fill with stuff from over there or with ideas. You just see that you everything is new to you, right? Everything is new here. So therefore, when you see it new, you're like fascinated by it, but you also see where there's opportunities, because it's not stuff you just, that's everyone does it that way. Well, I don't know how everyone does it. Like there's still 20 years, I'm 22 years in the country. I still find tools, especially like workman tools that I've never seen in my life. They're like typical American inventions, because Americans are really great at creating something that is really adds to the convenience factor. So, so you come to this country with eyes wide open, and you just see everything from a completely different angle that everyone else sees, and because of that, you see opportunities. The other part, though, is that you see opportunities because, or you implement these opportunities easier because I want to say that almost everywhere in the world, it is harder to start your own company than it is in the United States. The United States is really set up, truly set up for it to be so easy for you to start your own business. Plus, the mentality of the people here, and I'm an American citizen now too, by the way. My wife is too. We're both naturalized citizens now, and our daughter obviously is a born American. Everything is set up for you to be easy, like setting up an LLC. It's like in Arizona, it's as easy as $120, takes 3 weeks, and you never have to pay annual filing fees again. That's it. And then you don't have to have a minimum deposit to start and things like that. You start to try the equivalent, which is called the GmbH, basically an LLC in Germany. You have to have $50,000 to start capital. You have to go through a lengthy bureaucratic process to even set it up. And then more importantly, even that your surroundings in the US are applauding you for becoming an entrepreneur. Your surroundings in many other countries are like, ooh, isn't that risky? Are you sure you want to do that? Oh my God. And it's always the bureaucracy and the people keep you down in many other countries. Whereas in the US, you're being pushed up, you're being applauded, you're being celebrated, you're being tapped on the shoulders like, go for it, man, go for it. Because it's that kind of attitude in this country. So coming here and then seeing opportunity and being applauded, and it's been easy to set up a company. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You just go for it, right? Yeah. And the people who are used to living here and there's a third or fourth part to that is that when you leave another country, particularly when you left before the social media world was in place, it's almost like you just leave and you start a brand new life. Like all those kind of like society ties of like, if you were known to be the son of, or if you known that your family was a family that was in trouble and you're just associated with that family in your little town or so, then you had an automatically harder time over there being successful because everyone lumped you in with a trouble group over there. That wasn't the case for me, right? But basically, it's like as you start, it's a clean slate. You can create your new identity. You have no baggage that you bring with you from anywhere else. It's truly just like, hey, it's America. Let's start fresh. Let's do whatever the heck we want to do, and as long as it's legal, right? And let's just let's just create this life for ourselves. Because I don't go because you don't get sucked down again by your mediocre surroundings that perhaps you came from in another country. Like I grew up in a small town. I mean, starting something over there would have been like fighting against the current. The current of everyone's like just spending their weekends drinking, and everyone's spending their summers on the lake, and nothing wrong with it. We now spend our summers on the lake too, but it's like they were almost like pulling you down and leaving to new country and new opportunity and a positive environment and easy to set up a business, lots of opportunity. I mean, this is still the breeding ground for lots of the billionaires of this world and for lots of the wealthy people in this world. So it truly is the country of the American dream.
So I love that. And I really like the fact that you alluded to something that I'm sure that you've read about many times and many of our listeners have, which is this idea of, being guilty by association, and how do you rise above the circumstances that you were born into, and how do you decide to spend time with people that are going to help raise you up instead of hold you back. And you're the product of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with and all that kind of stuff. So I'm curious, when you were in this salary job where you felt somewhat trapped because of your H-1 visa, and here you had decided to use your spare time to do some investing on the side, which turned out to be a great discovery. Were you also at that time finding yourself surrounded by the forward-thinking people that have applauded you on this journey, or have you sort of sought those folks out once you kind of dipped your toe into real estate investing? Then you started finding like-minded people that applauded you and pushed you forward, or were you already surrounded by people like that when you were in your job, if you will?
So I found that the people that applauded us most were the people we barely knew. So the people like somewhere like a contractor comes over, says, what do you do? Real estate. Oh, wow, this is really cool. Yeah, congratulations, stuff like that. Or just people that you meet at just a cocktail party or somebody like that, or just a party or something. What do you do? Like, are we doing this? Oh, this is cool. Cool. This is awesome. The people you actually know better, the people actually like, for example, my wife graduated college a little bit after me, and because I came only to do a 1 year program, she was still in the process there. And when we went to her college there, particularly to the Alumni Association, and told them what we do, they literally laughed at us.
Whoa.
So they literally laughed at us and they made fun of us right there. And then 10 years later, when they had their 10-year reunion, they all looked like they had aged 30 years. They're all were like frustrated and things like that. And that's when they all came up to us and said like, oh man, you guys did the right choice. But the point is the way we did it, and the same happens with my colleagues at work. I realized when I mentioned something to them, they're just like their eyes glazed over and they just wouldn't listen. So what I did is I retracted. I retracted from people that would not help me on my path. I just basically worked. I worked, and perhaps in the evening, because we were traveling, we're in hotels, we went for dinner together, but I minimized the dinner. I had a beer, had my dinner, and said, okay, guys, I'm going to go up to my room. And I left as soon as I could. And I then kept working on our business while Michelle was working on our business here at home, and we're trying to figure things out and so on. The thing that made the biggest difference, though, was, I think, to me, was books for me. Back then, again, YouTube wasn't even around yet. Facebook wasn't around and those kind of things. So I reached out to books. And I started filling my mind with positive messages from books. And I started reading all those, like the 1 Millionth Millionaire, Think and Grow Rich, The Richest Man in Babylon, the Robert Kiyosaki books, for example, of course. I'm just looking at some of them there, real estate books and things like that, to just and they kept me going while some of the world outside wasn't always positive. Now I say like, but what I mean like overall is like, if I would go into Germany to a cocktail bar and would tell somebody this is what I do, they would say like, whoa, isn't that very risky? How you think about taxes? What do you think about retirement and things like that? And I'm exaggerating, but I find it that now that we teach this to people, we have a bunch of Germans coming in, and I love them. But the Germans have figured out that they can do this from Germany here in the US. But what I find is I'm really noticing a cultural difference, that the Germans ask, before they even take the first step, they ask, well, what about taxes? And how do I minimize taxes? And what are all the 17 hurdles that I need to know about? And the Americans say, well, this is cool. Let me go get started.
Yeah.
Right? That's a completely different mindset. So over there, I have to constantly tell them like, guys, forget about the hurdles. Just freaking get started and cross one hurdle before you go. You don't ask if every light is green before you start driving from Stuttgart to Munich, right? Or from LA to San Francisco. You just go, and when the light is red, you figure out you wait until it's green, or you figure out the problem, and that's why we have a course to teach you through these things. But there's a distinct mentality difference that makes it so much easier to live in the US and do business in the US, because overall it's a positive environment, even though on a micro level there's negative people.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I love that. And I'm a huge avid reader. I'm constantly devouring books because I feel like, honestly, when I got started as a self-employed person in 2007, I struggled for years. I mean, my story was not rags to riches. It was like rags for a long time. So for me, it wasn't until people started giving me these business books and I realized that those books on my shelf, I mean, I've read every one that you just named, and every one of those books has been my teacher and has been my guide, because I completely agree that when I started wanting to take chances and believing that something better existed, I knew that not everybody around me was going to resonate with that or support me, or, there was going to be naysayers, and I was probably doubting myself, and I needed those books to mentor me through and keep me on my path. And to this day, like if I wake up and I'm in a funk, I'm not having I'm not feeling it today, then I always pick up a book that is tried and true, and within 10 minutes, I'm ready to crush the day. So if you're not already reading out there and you're using the excuse that you're not a reader, no more excuses. If you want different results, you can get that motivation and concrete ideas and take action. So
and nowadays, you don't even have to read. You can do audiobooks.
Exactly. If I could remember anything I heard, I would do audiobooks all day long. I'm like the kinesthetic learner that has to be highlighting and taking notes to be able to digest it. All right, so let's dig in a little bit, because one of the things that you mentioned that was kind of alarming to me was the idea of buying a piece of land for $100 or $400 or even $8,000, especially because I live in a place where, you know, lots of land, you know, could be $200,000. So talk to me a little bit about, first and foremost, how you were identifying the opportunities, where were you doing it, and are you still concentrated in one geographic area, or are you doing it nationally, internationally? Like, talk us through a little bit about identifying the opportunities.
I'll be happy to do that. We focus on three kinds of land. So there right away, when people hear land flipping, they're like, isn't that risky? Isn't that expensive? And so on. Well, when people hear land flipping, what they're really thinking is about land development or land banking and so on. And when you focus on, and true, that can be risky and expensive and long lasting and so on, when you focus on the properties that are worth like $1 million, $10 million, things like that, like the 20 acres right on the interstate where they're gonna put the new ballpark on, right? That's the stuff that is highly speculative. It can take for years, and you might have to put in $10 million into a deal like that and so on. Now that's something that is not what we're talking about here. So absolutely not. That's not our playground. Although one of our students just 2 years ago bought a property for $10 million with some partners and just sold it for $16 million. So they made a few $1 million in the process, all right? But that's, again, that's the exception, not our bread and butter kind of deal. Our bread and butter kind of deal is actually the properties that are below $100,000, or if you're in a market like Denver, probably below $200,000. So it's three kinds of properties. Property number one is the infill lot. So infill lots are basically, the definition of an infill lot is that you have a street, there's 35 houses, there's one empty lot. That one is still waiting to be filled in. That's why the word infill lots, right? So, and if the houses in the neighborhood are worth $500,000, then that lot is probably worth about $120,000 to $150,000, because the land is worth usually about 20 to 30% of market value of the houses, right? So if the house is worth 500 grand, the lot is worth 125, or let's say. So if you can pick up a property like that from a longtime owner who perhaps bought it for $10,000 30 years ago and is willing to let it go for $80,000 right now or $70,000, then you pick that thing up when you sell it to a builder for 110, make a $30,000 profit and move on, right? That's an easy deal, and builders buy these properties all day long, particularly in the little bit more affordable areas or in the very attractive areas. So great. So then the next kind of property we're focusing on is the property right on the outside of the big cities. So let's say perhaps anywhere between like 2 and 3 and 20, 30 miles outside of a big city, right? That's what's called the path of growth, right? So a city like Denver, even though the market has slowed down, it's a city like Denver are still growing. Cities like Phoenix, like Atlanta, like Chicago, you name it, like all the big cities in the United States are growing, right? All the mid-sized cities, all the, I don't know, like, what is it? Memphis, not Memphis, it's the other one. Nashville is growing, and Miami is growing, and Tampa is growing, and New Orleans is growing, and you name it. If you're outside of these cities in the path of growth, you have a very, very powerful combination. You have properties that are affordable to most people, because these properties, 2 acres, a few miles outside of Denver, might only be worth $30,000. But at the same time, you're only 15, 20 minutes away from the city. So this is attractive to two kinds of buyers. Number one is the financial investor that basically wants to buy a property like that and then hold on for another 20 years until the city has approached and that property is now worth $200,000. Or the other one is a person that wants to live on a little more space, perhaps close to retirement, and doesn't have a whole bunch of money, can't afford the $500,000 houses in Denver or the $500,000 in LA or in San Diego and so on, but they live out there, so they put their mobile home on there, And now when they retire, they have a affordable lifestyle, but they're only 15 minutes from the doctors, the grocery stores, the movie theaters, and the restaurants, right? So, and on top of it, as the city approaches, this property goes up in value. So he's actually sitting on something that is increasing in value. Very powerful combination, lots of buyers for these kind of properties. The third kind of property we focus on is actually more recreational land. So 40 acres out in the Rockies, 40 acres out in outside of in the Smoky Mountains outside of Georgia, right? 40 acres up north in Arizona where the weather is 75 degrees when it's 110 in Phoenix, right? Those kind of properties are very, very attractive to the camping, hiking, dirt biking, recreational cabin kind of loving crowd out there. And that is a multi-billion-dollar market out there of people that love the outdoors. So great. So by focusing on these kind of properties, we have we have a whole bunch of buyers lined up to buy these properties. And we are dealing with properties that are below usually $100,000 in value. And again, in high-priced areas, perhaps below $200,000 in value. And so by focusing on those, we also come across, we figured out that there's a set of people that just don't want these properties anymore, because the downside of having properties for long-term, a piece of land for long-term, is that they do not cash flow. And that's the biggest criticism on land anyway. People say like, well, why land? It doesn't cash flow. Well, for many reasons, if somebody wants to go put their RV out there and hike and camp and have bonfires, they don't care if it doesn't cash flow. They're using it to have fun. So they're paying the annual property taxes to have fun with it. And but what happens is many times people buy them and then their life changes and 20 years pass and now they're not using it anymore. They're still paying property taxes. They don't care for it anymore. Perhaps they passed away. The heirs have them now. The heir lives in New York, right? The property's in Arkansas or in Colorado or in Texas or in Florida, you name it, right? Or in Georgia. And they just don't want it anymore. They don't want to have to pay even just $300-400 a year in property taxes. They don't want to deal with that thing anymore, and they're willing to let these properties go for literally pennies on the dollar. So we pay. Sometimes there's some lower price properties that are only worth like $5,000 or $10,000. We regularly pick up for under $1,000, and often for only like $200-300, right? And properties that are worth perhaps $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 or $100,000, we pick up for $8,000, $10,000 or $20,000, and then we flip them also. And the nice part is, again, so this is kind of what we focus on. This is the markets we focus on, and we're focusing on the people who actually don't want their properties anymore. They don't have an interest in their properties anymore, and it works like a charm.
So I love this, and it's fascinating. Talk to me a little bit about both the acquisition process and then the sales process after acquisition. Right. How are you identifying the opportunity and contacting those folks? You mentioned tax liens, so are you just scouring county records in multitude of areas looking for unpaid tax liens and things like that because you know that those investments have just gone dormant?
That's how we started, right? When we started, we didn't really have, as I said, we had no clue about real estate. We didn't know anything about it. The language was new, everything I just mentioned. And when we came across tax liens and tax deeds, and we were fascinated by it. The concept that people actually on purpose or just because they don't want to deal with the property anymore, don't pay property taxes anymore, completely blew our minds. Because from both in Honduras and in Germany, that doesn't happen. That the government does not take those properties away like they do here, like through the tax lien process or the tax deed process. Probably won't go into it right now, but it's like basically the government, if you don't pay property taxes on your property, the government has a process that takes the properties away anywhere usually between 2 and 5 years into non-paying. So you don't pay for 2 to 5 years and your property's gone and somebody else owns your property. That's completely different in Europe and in Latin America. So so when we came across that, we just like the fact that somebody wouldn't pay property taxes blew our minds. And then we started thinking, well, if they don't want these properties anymore, why do we want to wait until a foreclosure happens or a tax deed action happens or a tax lien has to be purchased and you have to wait? And so why don't we contact these people directly? So we started playing with direct mail and we developed a letter over time that literally got us a 5 to 15% response rate from these people. And then soon enough, we realized, though, that it's not only the people who stop paying property taxes who don't want their properties anymore, because after having done like about 200 deals, we realized that 81% of all our deals were done with people who actually still paid their property taxes. So they weren't owing anything. And since then, we've taken the lid off. And for the next 3,800 deals, we don't care about tax delinquent or not. We care about certain properties. So yes, we go to the county, or nowadays you can go to data services. Like there's a whole bunch of data services that you can go and get a list of landowners within a certain price range, within a certain demographics, or not demographics, but where they live, like and certain zip codes and certain things. And you can filter down, you can get exactly the kind of list that you want of property owners and properties, I mean, with ownership information, which, by the way, is another incredible thing. Like the United States really doesn't have any privacy. There's no privacy here. So there's like, you can find out, it's all public record. Like try to do that in almost any other country. You cannot get the data. The data is almost, in Germany, it's completely impossible to get that data that we are having, that's literally online on many websites, county websites here. So again, United States is the place to do this. So we get these lists, we send out letters. So we developed a direct mail approach. But it's not a crazy numbers direct mail approach. Our average student gets a deal for every 300 to 500 letters that they send out. So when you send out 500 letters, you typically get anywhere from 50 to 100 phone calls that you now make 50 to 100 offers on. And on average, you get already 1 or 2 deals with that. So now you have a deal. And then on the selling side, we actually do this also remotely. We actually go and sell these properties using we're using very well-known websites like Zillow, like LandWatch, like Lands of America, like Craigslist, and for example, Facebook Marketplace. Amazing platform to sell properties through right now. One of our students just reported they put something up, and one day they got 100 inquiries and 2 people fighting over the property. Right? Wow. So you can sell the properties, you can buy them remotely. We buy properties from Hawaii to Florida. And we're buying it right from exactly here. We haven't looked at any single piece of land that we have flipped for the last 12 years.
Wow.
We haven't looked at them because you don't have to. I mean, if it's land, you can do everything with land flipping you can do with house flipping, except for rehabbing, because there's nothing to rehab, obviously, right? So you can sell them for retail. You can sell them wholesale. We do a lot of selling with seller financing, which actually makes land cash flow. Right? Which most people say doesn't cash flow. Well, you can cash flow it. Just buy a property for $2,000, sell it for $20,000, get a $2,000 down payment, meaning you have all the money back that you paid for it when you sell it, and agree on a $400 a month payment for the next 6 years. Right? And you got cash flow for the next 6 years of $400 without any tenants, toilets, termites, trash, repairs, mold, contractors, all this kind of stuff.
My God, I love it. My wheels are turning like crazy right now. I'm so excited. So let me ask you this. You started this, and it kind of happened by accident for you, on the side of a full-time job, grinding it out and hustling essentially until you were able to ultimately quit your full-time job, I assume.
Yes.
What is your advice to folks who are listening and already are, quote unquote, so busy? Do the majority of your students come to you investing in the coaching in order to just find that exit strategy and go leave their full-time job as soon as possible? Or would you say the majority of your students are doing this for just additional streams of passive income? I mean, it's not fully passive because you're making calls and you're doing work. What's your experience been? Do you find that this is a great exit strategy or it's a great supplement?
All right, so both really. We have, and by the way, I just want to mention that I know your audience is a lot of is real estate agents too, and I do have a real estate license in Arizona, but I don't use it and I don't need it for our investing business. So I only got it because as we started doing bigger investments, like we bought a apartment complex and things like that, and we bought a new house and things, I'm saving a bunch of commission by being able to represent myself and so on. But you don't need that license, but I did want to mention it. And then, the time factor. So, but I have no time. Well, this is a common thing people tell us. And what I would ask them to do, I would ask somebody who says, I have no time, I would ask them to do is to look really closely at where they're spending their time and see if they can eliminate some of the minimal wage activities that they're doing and replace that with maximum wage activities. So in other words, like the first thing we did, as soon as we had a first deal got done, we hired a cleaning lady for our house, a cleaning service for our house, right? Because it does not serve us. It's not the best use of our time to clean our house, right? Now we don't even do groceries anymore. Instacart, right? Instacart delivers groceries from different grocery stores right to our door, right? So we eliminated most of the stuff that we do. And I have one question also to those people that say they have no time, and that is to answer the question, what is your favorite TV show? If you have a favorite TV show, you're wasting time, right? I don't have a favorite TV show. Mine I do, but I only watch it like once a month, right? And it's Shark Tank. I love the deal making, the things there. My 11-year-old and I watch it together. But we don't watch TV. We have 4 TVs in the house and they're off. They're off basically the entire day. They're being turned on when you do with TV evening, or once you're truly done it, we turn on TV and watch a show and so on. But then we're done. So the other thing is, though, pick something, and of course I'm biased towards my land flipping method, but pick something that does not require as much time. Like flipping a house, rehabbing a house is a full-time job. Like it's a full-time activity, unless you're really experienced and then you have a team and a crew and so on. But if you monitoring contractors and stuff like that, it's a full-time thing. And then every rehab I've ever heard of went over budget and over time. So therefore it cuts into your profit. So you think you're making 50 grand, you end up only making 20. Well, guess what? You can make 20 by flipping a piece of land that you don't have to see, that you can do part-time, and our system can be outsourced. Like we have one of our students is a United States Air Force officer, very high up in the Air Force, and he travels constantly, even around the world. And he was still able to do in the first 3-4 months of working with us, he made 100 grand flipping land. And he did that by making sure that, like, for example, he got the list from a service. He used a mailing house for the letter sending. He used the call center to take the phone calls. So the only thing that he needed to find time for is figure out what these properties were worth and decide what offer amount to make, right? And then he hired a virtual assistant to help him sell these properties. And he was continuing to work in the military, in the Air Force, and his role. And in the meantime, though, things were happening. Deals were going out. Deals were being accepted. And he was able to outsource it all. So to your other question, do our students come to us to learn a second stream of income, to replace their income, or to what? It's really all over the board. There's sure. People that are retired, perhaps sometimes already, they want to supplement, they want to learn how to make more because they know, or they're about to be retired, and there's like, okay, I got 5 years left till retirement. I want to add this right now. I might not quit my job in order to reduce my retirement income, but I want to do this on the side so I have an extra supplement to my income. And then once I retire, I go full time, or just crank it up a little bit more. Or they say like, I hate my job, I need to get out, or they're currently jobless and they're like, I have 120 days to make this work, otherwise I run out of money, right? And we had one person like that, he went full out and it took him 3.5 months and he made $26,000. And with that, he's now afloat and he has 3 other deals coming in. Or we have like the military gentleman, he's about to leave the military, or that was his plan. So he also set up a backup plan. He says like, I don't want to wait until I'm done with the military to figure out what to do afterwards. I want to do it now, right? And then we have a good amount of people who are already successful in real estate, and they join our program because they're sick and tired of the way they have been doing real estate, right? Mm-hmm. Of all the hassles with tenants and toilets and termites and repairs and contractors and stuff like that. And this is all good. We have almost 50 rental properties, right? So we deal with that on a daily basis. We have 340 apartment units. We deal actually less there because we have property management companies in place there that take care of everything. But but we deal with all these pieces too. And compared to that, the cash flow from the land, when you get seller financing deals and the cash, is just so much smoother, so much easier. And there's so much less red tape and so much less moving pieces that it's attractive for a lot of people. We just recently had a couple of guys that are doing really well in the Las Vegas market. They just don't want to be door knockers and rehabbers and things. They just want to go full in land. So they came to us and they're learning this.
So let me ask you a little bit about the coaching program itself, and kind of how that came to be. I don't want to keep you too long here, but I'm just curious, and I'm sure some of the listeners are as well. I mean, what is the framework for the coaching program nowadays? I assume that you've got coaches on your team that have learned and implemented and now are coaches for your program. Is it like a structured biweekly phone call? Are you providing tangible resources? Tell us a little bit about the program itself.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Thank you. So we actually have two things. So the first thing we have is a course. So most people start with us with a course, and the course is, contrary to other people's courses, is a true full complete course. So it's A to Z. Everything you need to do a deal is in that course. So most people get the course, and they can get it at the website called, if you allow me, it's called landprofitgenerator.com. So landprofitgenerator.com. That you can find out the course. You can watch a training webinar, and then choose if that's something that you want to do. We also have a Facebook group that people can join. It's called Land Profit Generator Real Estate Group, and that's a free group that you can join where a lot of our successful students hang out. And that's truly a group where we all help each other get more successful in our land deals. And so a lot of people join us either there or there, just check it out, and then they get the course. And then the course is one of two outcomes happens, or one of three outcomes. First outcome is they never open the course, which then means they need help, right? So because if they never open the course, they're kind of procrastinators, and the procrastinators in life, well, they don't get stuff done, because if you don't have something super urgent that forces them to take action, they're never going to take action. So we have a fair amount of people coming into the coaching program because they know they're procrastinators and they need our help to put their feet into the fire a little bit and make them do things. The second kind of group is the people who are out there who go do it and they get it done, and great, they don't need coaching, right? They don't need coaching. They just figured it out based on the course. They follow the steps, they get it done. Some people follow the course and they still would like to have more hand-holding, more things. They come across questions that they don't know how to answer. They would like to have a quick answer, be able to just send an email to their coach, get an answer right away, and so on, and have that extra help. So they come on board for that. And the third kind of group is the group of people. So the first one, open it. The second one can be successful, and the third one is kind of like they're struggling along a little bit, even because either they misunderstand something in the course or they just want more help. So when they come on board with our mentorship program, as we call it, it is indeed, it's structured such that the first 5 weeks are weekly calls, because those are the most crucial weeks to get things started, right? The first week, we go help you select your counties. Second week, you go and then get the lists. You get the first list from these counties. The second or third week, you're already sending out letters, right? The third or fourth week, you're already getting phone calls back from people that you sent the letters to. The next week, you're doing value analysis and you're making offers on these deals. And then week 6, 7, 8, you might already have an accepted offer. And now we're talking about the marketing, how to sell these properties. And again, by week 7, 8, 9, by call 7, 8, 9, you have your first deal sold. That's how it's laid out, right? And we have had people that exactly, like a couple in the Bay Area, they started up January 24th, they started, March 22nd, they had their first deal completed and sold, right? So it was as quickly as 2 months. So actually, no, they had it completed and bought or under contract in March 22nd, and a week or two later, they had it sold. So it's basically 2.5 months, the first deal, and now they have the second deal going and the third deal going, and things are moving. And then from then on, we work on building your system so that you not just know how to do one deal or two deals, but that you have a scalable system that you can take up to whatever heights you want to take it up to. And this is all done by one-on-one phone calls with our coaches. Now, the funny thing is most of our coaches or mentors, they actually were students of ours prior. They made it through the program and now our average coach, we only have 5 coaches, but our average coach does between 50 and 170 deals per year themselves. So these are full-time land flippers. They don't do anything else anymore. Several of them used to be house rehabbers and house flippers, and now they completely abandoned that. They only do land because they understand land is simpler. And they are now giving back to the community by being mentors.
Awesome. Well, I am fascinated and intrigued and excited, and I'm definitely going to dig in more and learn more, because I think this is genius, and I so appreciate you taking the time to be on the show today. And I'm sure that you'll be hearing from some people that are as excited as I am. How do folks get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
So the 2 ways would be the easiest way. One is to go to landprofitgenerator.com and just register there. It's for free. Watch the training call. Gives you more details than what we talked about right now, about also how about the seller financing, how it works, and how the cash flow from it all works, and so on. And then the second one is join our Facebook group. It's free. It's a lot of our successful students are in there, and it become, I believe, one of the best groups on Facebook, because the spirit, you got to answer a couple of questions. So there's no spam allowed. There's no selling allowed. I think it's truly a group that helps each other become successful and more successful in this group. There's resources being shared, and it's just an amazing group. So it's called Land Profit Generator Real Estate Group, and join us on Facebook. And there you can contact, from there you can contact us directly. You can contact us. What we have, obviously, there's multiple ways, but through the Facebook group, you ask a question, and either myself, I don't go on there every single day. My wife goes on there every single day. She's obviously the co-founder of the business and knows this as well as I do. And so together, and our team, we monitor and answer every question that's on there.
I love it. I'll see you there soon.
All right. Wonderful.
Thank you again. Thanks for being on the show today. It was awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and thanks everyone as always for tuning in. I hope you found as much value as I did today. And if you're enjoying the content, I always implore you to please subscribe on your app on your phone. Just hit the little subscribe button, or on YouTube, and leave a review if you're enjoying the content, because it helps us continue to attract awesome guests like Jack and continue to bring great content to you. So I wish you all a wonderful day, and thanks as always for being here. I love and appreciate all of you. Have a great day.